Hey guys, I'm back again finally with a review of The Enchanted by Renee Denfeld. Okay, you probably already know a little bit about what this book is about. I'm not going to talk too much about the plot of the book because I think the plot of the book you have to discover it as you go along. But as you know, it is set in a prison and specifically around death row inmates. I want to say, first of all, I did not love this book, but I did not hate this book. I would say I'm pretty much the middle of the road. I think it is a good book, so I gave it a 3 stars over on Goodreads. Now, the thing that I think has the most going for this book is the writing. The writing is fantastic. It is extremely descriptive. It's astutely written, and I think that's the force of the book. Now, the things that I had problems with were the fact that this story is recounted by one of the prisoners, one of the death row prisoners, except this death row prisoner, you don't know who he is or really anything in particular, but he is recounting the stories of some of the other inmates in the prison as well as some of the other people that work in the prison. So for me already, that gave me a certain distance to the story. Another thing I had a problem with was the magical realism. Now, in general, I am not a fan of magical realism because I think when you, depending on the intensity in which the magical realism is added, determines how I'm going to sort of feel about the book. In this case, I think there was a lot of magical realism, and it seemed like it was there for the reader to swallow the big horse pill. And the big horse pill is difficulty or the seriousness of the topic. I want to say as well, I don't think this book is for everyone. It is quite descriptive and detailed in some of the more difficult passages to read of abuse and things, sexual abuse and violence and things like that. And overall, the book has a fairly gritty, gritty, dark, harsh feeling to it. And for me personally, that took over the majority of the book for me, and I completely turned off because as I was reading along, I felt like the book was written for a particular purpose. That is, the writer of the book, Renee Denfeld, she had a purpose to writing this book. And so I felt like I was being slightly manipulated. I know that she is a death penalty investigator, and one of the main characters in the book is a death penalty investigator. But yeah, I felt like I was being dragged along Renee Denfeld's agenda. And I think I would have preferred to have things exposed to me in a way that I could make my own decisions on some of these difficult topics that she brings up in this book. All in all, I would say if you're curious enough and you can get through the difficulty of some of the grittiness and the harshness of the book, go ahead and read it and pick it up. That way you can decide for yourself. But if you're someone who gets turned off by reading about abuse and you know, really tough issues like that, I would say do not read this book because it is pretty much from cover to cover. There's enough of it in here to turn someone off. But I feel like this book will probably wind up being a book that will be discussed as being one of the best of the year, most likely because of the writing, but mostly because of the topic. The topic is something that hasn't been dealt with in this particular manner, and it may speak to some people, but I don't think it will speak to everybody. So that's pretty much all I have to say for this book. 3 stars. For me, it was a good book, but not more. I'm not going to say it was my favorite of 2014 because it's not. You would have to read this book in order to decide what you feel about it. So that's what I have as a review. Yeah, this is the W&N edition. It's a hardcover, nicely published book. Here's a picture of Renee Denfeld right here. Okay, it says Renee Denfeld is a death penalty investigator and the author of 3 nonfiction books, including the international bestseller, The New Victorians. She has written for numerous publications, including the New York Times Magazine. She lives in Portland, Oregon, with her 3 children, all adopted from foster care. In addition to working with death row clients, Denfeld volunteers with at-risk youth in foster adoption and advocacy. So yes, she is a person who knows a lot about the difficulties of prison and all of the other, difficulties of being, a youth with no parents and going in and out of the system. She seems to be quite an authority on it, and I think this book is going to give her some serious recognition this year.